Hello, everyone. My name is Kristina Carpenter, and I am Head of Creative Arts at Outwood Academy, Adwick. I am also a Musical Futures Champion teacher. And I have a presentation for you today all about top tips for getting your classes to play as a whole class ensemble. So focusing on that practical ensemble playing within your lessons and with any year group. So this can apply to any year group. So first of all, my top tip, have music playing when students enter the classroom. So music, in my opinion, should always be the first language that they hear when they enter your classroom. I think that it sets the scene and it provides for me a lot more engagement. I often have a recording of the piece that we are performing, playing the students enter the room and when they're practicing, and I feel that it really helps them to internalise what they are doing. And I also find that it's much more accessible for them to play and perform something in a lesson that they can internalise. So having that music playing when they enter and potentially keeping that playing as they practice. My second tip is do the music first. So experience, then question. So usually the starter in my lessons is practice. Even if we're not necessarily doing a performance lesson, they will come in, it's an active start, and it's usually to practice something practical that I've given them on the screen on an instrument. I want students to be immersed in the experience and the sound before I question them and further develop their knowledge or skill. I find that this active starter aids engagement and the excitement of the lesson topic. And because of this, I find that students are actively involved in the starter, which allows the start of my lessons to keep pace. And within 10 minutes, usually students have already performed something. So I haven't sort of getting them in behind a desk and getting the books out and doing all of that kind of thing. I am starting my lessons practically with music in mind, which means that they are engaged much more in that starter activity. I think it's important for students to be immersed in the music before, through experience, before they're able to answer any questions. I always find that if they've played something and really been a part of it, they've been in it, they find it much easier to answer difficult questions. And I always kind of think of the scenario imagine asking a student who has never eaten a pizza what a pizza tastes like just by showing them a picture on the screen. What does this pizza taste like? If they've never really experienced it, they're going to find it very, very difficult to answer that question. And doing this, I feel, allows the students to flourish. Number 3, use games to get across difficult concepts. Okay, so I use lots of games, particularly during practical music making, in order to tackle difficult concepts. For example, when students start to learn reggae and when they play reggae, it can be really difficult for them to understand and play syncopated parts. So if a lesson, for example, started with a bit of listening on reggae and then an explanation of what syncopation is with some other features, I found in the past that students have become quite disengaged with this and therefore they've lost focus and therefore they've probably missed my explanation of some difficult concepts. So a strategy that I use is, as a starter, I will give students a range of chords and they are to learn that on their instrument as they enter the room. And the instruments that I've got in the room are bass guitar, electric guitar, acoustic guitars, ukuleles, keyboards, glockenspiels, and I've got drums. Now, for this, I wouldn't involve the drums. It would just be an instrument, usually of their choice, but, as teachers, we decide on that differently. And where you put your students. So once the starter is complete and the chords have been practiced, I then start to run a workshop and a bit of a game in which I get students to play the different chords, usually on every beat. So I'll stick a beat on the keyboard that's at the front of my room that I've usually got plugged into a amp so it's loud so everyone can hear it. And I'll say, okay, the first chord, let's play it on every beat. And they just get playing. They find that it's easy and that's what I want. And it means that I can do this. So they start to feel that empowerment. I then start to make it a little bit harder and fun. And I say, right, I'm going to try and trick you out. So I might say, right, let's play it for 8 beats and then let's move to the next chord. So we start to look at a transition. And the chords that they're playing are the chords that I'm going to need later for the song that they're going to play. So before they actually know, they're playing the song. I then might say, okay, so now we've played it on every beat. I want you to only play it on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. I want you to be silent. So it starts to develop their listening, their focus, and they just think it's a game that I'm trying to, kind of trick them out, and they're trying to get one over on me. I then might say, okay, let's just do it on the odd numbers, or I might say, let's just do it on beats 1, 2, 5, 6, whatever. Okay, and I might even split the room up in half and start to do points that way. So it's a game. I then eventually get to the point where they are playing it on the even numbers. Okay, and I then start to get across to them the fact that we're now on 2, 4, 6, 8. Does it feel any different? Can you do it? Yeah, miss, it's dead easy. And the reason that they find it easy is because they just think it's a game. They just think they're playing these chords on different beats. And actually, what they've ended up creating is, I usually do three little birds. They end up being able to play the verse or the chorus of that song just through a game, because they've used the chords that are in the song and then they've used them on the beats that they're playing on. And it usually then morphs in to what they're doing. And it can be quite difficult if I haven't done that, to tell them that it's these chords on these beats. They quite often get stuck on those off beats. Usually with this game, they've come across those difficult concepts because they've experienced it in a live situation, and it therefore becomes much more memorable. Tip number 4, get a head mic. Okay, it might sound crazy, but I get into sort of a real Britney and Madonna mode when leading workshops and whole class ensembles. I was finding that my voice was going quite a lot. I was finding that I couldn't get my voice louder than 30 instruments in my classroom. And I thought, what do I need? What was going to help me? So I got a head mic that plugs into a PA in my room, which means that every student can hear me. It isn't good for your voice if you're shouting over, and actually the students will struggle to hear you. So I found that using a head mic is wonderful. Students can hear me clearly. I can lead my workshops much more easily, and there isn't any missed pieces of information. And I found that the students are so much more engaged because they can hear me. They're not going, oh, what she said, am I getting it wrong? They can hear me. They can feel comfortable in that situation. They know what they're doing, and everything's nice and clear. And I don't have to struggle then with my voice. So a head mic, and I think they cost about £30 on Gear for Music, and it's an absolute game changer. Number 5, immerse in music language whilst students are playing. So because the head mic allows you to talk to your classes while they are playing, it's a lovely idea to immerse students in language as they are playing. So I will often workshop for 20 minutes. I mean, I have had situations where, particularly with year 10, we've ended up playing for 45 minutes non-stop. And that was during a minimalism topic where we were just kind of adding so many different features and really just enjoying being immersed in the music. And so we were playing for that long and we didn't even realise it. So quite often I can workshop and just play for a long time. Changing what they're playing, who's playing. So I love taking sections of instruments and asking them to play on their own whilst the rest of the class listen. So, for example, we could all be playing a chord sequence, or we could all be playing the verse of a song, or whatever it is, and I might drop out all instruments except for a group of bass guitars, or I might drop everything out except for the keyboards. And then I can introduce the class then to what that section of instruments are playing. For example, if I had a particular rhythm being played on the drums, I could ask the drummers to play on their own. So if we look at a one-drop in reggae, we could all be playing Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, and I might tell everyone to drop out except for the drums. And as the drums are playing, I might explain to them, the whole class, what the drummers are playing. Now, the drummers will be playing that because they've learnt their part. Okay, but I can explain what's happening. I can say, listen out for where the bass comes in. Listen to what happens here. Another example could be that we are playing blues, and I could have everyone playing a 12-bar blues, and I might say, everyone drop out except for the bass, and the bass might be playing a walking bass line, and I can talk through what's happening in that walking bass line as those students are modelling it, as those students are playing it, talking about how the pitch moves up and down, etc., and what it means in blues and why it's there. And I just feel that doing it like this, it's giving them, again, that live experience. It's less about me standing at the front and talking to them about something that at the minute doesn't feel real to them. Seeing their friends play something and then me talking to them about it, it makes it real. They can hear it within the music. I can then bring everyone back in and they're like, all right, I'm playing on top of a walking bass line here. It's making that experience real for them. and experiencing it live. Number 6 is scaffold, scaffold, scaffold. So scaffolding is my best friend. I will always scaffold the playing in class, in a class ensemble. I'll never just say, sort of give them something and go 1, 2, 3, 4, go, and expect students to play it perfectly. So the scaffolding will obviously be differentiated depending on what class I've got and what class I'm teaching. So let me talk you through an example. We have been looking in year 8 at 3 Lions because of the Euros, and the starter on the board has been these 4 chords. On their instruments, they have had how to play these 4 chords, and they've had 2 minutes. That's it, 2 minutes just to find the chord, make sure they're happy with it. Now, that's not a long time, okay, and I know that, but I'm going to get them to play these 4 chords during my workshop. I just need them to spend that couple of minutes finding where they are, knowing that they're okay with it to start the workshop. I won't then start my workshop playing as is written here. I'll start with my keyboards on a D minor and just get them looping that D minor. And whilst they're playing that D minor, I'll be checking that all of those D minors are right. And if I need to move any fingers or any notes are incorrect, I can do that as I go. I'll then bring the basses in, do the same process. I'll then bring the guitars in, do the same process. At this point, I've got everyone just playing a D minor to me. I can check they're in time. I can check the tuning's right. I can check everyone is where they need to be. I'll then go and do the same for the G and keep that G going over and over and over and over and over. So I now know that D minor is fine, G is fine. So they know the chords, but can they transition between the two? So then I'll say, right, let's play D minor 16 times, let's play G 16 times. And they'll start to do that transition 16 because it's enough time for them to really think, okay, in this many beats, I'm moving over. And I've got my head mic on and I'll be telling them, 8 beats we're moving, 4, 3, 2, 1, G. And I'll be directing that. And then I'll do the same for C, and I'll bring the C and we'll test the C, and then it'll be 16 on each. And then we'll do the A and it's 16 on each. And then from 16 on each, I'll go down to 8. And then I might go down to 4. And then I might even put some rhythm in there. Okay, looking at, well, you've got 4 beats in each, but we're going to play on 1, 2, and 4 and add in those kind of things in. And within 10 minutes, what could have been quite difficult if I didn't workshop it and control it myself has become so much easier. And actually then they've got the basis of what I want them to do, and it's the sparkly bits and the melodies and all the rest of it that I can put on top. But I've got my bass and I've got a warm up and the kids have warmed up and they're now in a musical frame of mind, and it's only been 10 or 15 minutes into the lesson. And then I will continue to scaffold. So for example, we've then put the melody for the chorus and the intro on top of these chords, and I've given them the intro melody, and I've given them the chorus melody, and I've given the bass lines a harder bass line, and where they're moving around a little bit more, and the guitar chords I've differentiated and added and made them harder. But again, what I will do is I will scaffold it within the workshop. So for example, I would put my beat on my keyboard and I would say to the keyboards, right, you're on the melody, and after 4, you're just going to play the first line, which might be 3 or 4 notes. And we'll do that over and over. I won't just say, right, melody 1, 2, 3, 4, go. It will be the first line. Once they've done the first line a couple of times, right, now let's add the second, and it's all built in. Then when they've got that melody going, I will then bring the bass line in. And again, I will then focus on them because the keyboards have got the melody, and I can build that bass line in. All the time, everyone's listening to each other. They're feeling that beat, and they're not expected to play the part straight out. We build it up. We literally take it step by step by step. And the difference in doing that for me within my classroom has been huge, because they are involved in music making, but they are just gradually getting better and gradually feeling more comfortable. And then by the end of the lesson, what they can achieve is massive because we've given that time to really perfecting that skill. Number 7, make a part for everybody. No matter the ability, every student needs to feel that they are part of your ensemble, your team, your family in your classroom. Don't just stretch and challenge the more able, but really think about how to differentiate for the students that struggle in your classroom. I think sometimes as musicians and as specialists, we can sometimes forget how difficult it is playing in an ensemble, particularly if you haven't got a fantastic skill level, or, those times that we get lost during playing. As musicians, we can get ourselves back on track, but the students find it really, really difficult. So think of it this way. You want every student to be walking out of your classroom saying, oh my goodness, I'm so happy, I'm so proud because I've just played this Ed Sheeran song, for example. What part they played is irrelevant at that point because you control it. You want everybody to walk out of your classroom, no matter the ability, feeling that they were a part of your ensemble and they were successful. So it's important that you make sure that you have a part for everybody, whether it is single fingers on the keyboard chords, because actually it's more important for that student to be with you in time than it is trying to get them to play all three fingers when actually that's going to really be a detrimental sort of effect on them because they're not going to. You want your more able students to really feel like they're challenging themselves. So maybe they have the melody and they take a role in that. Okay, so it's really about making sure that everyone feels that they've been a part of your ensemble, not just the higher ability, but the lower ability too. Number 8, I always tell my students what practice means. I think sometimes we can often go, right, go and practice your parts, but what does practice actually mean to them? Do they know how to practice? You know, sometimes we can do that with revision. Can you revise this tonight? Well, how do you revise? What does revision mean? So quite often I'll say to my students, right, we're going to practice, but this is what I expect in your practice. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And in those 3 minutes, I want you to repeat this 21 times. Because I know that if they can repeat it 21 times, it makes it into that habit. They get the hang of it. It might be that you say to them, if you go wrong, you start back at the beginning. It might be that you say, those 2 notes there, a lot of you are struggling with. So I want you to practice that 21 times. And by practicing, I just mean repeat. Let them know what your practice session looks like rather than just telling them to go. Because our students don't often know what the word practice means. Number 9, use your more able students as lead performers. So as I said before, quite often I'll have a keyboard plugged into an amp with a beat on. I do use drummers in a lot of my lessons. Some lessons I don't have students that can necessarily keep a whole class ensemble together, so I'll use a keyboard to keep that beat for us, and it's loud enough so everybody can hear it. I do the same with my more able players. I plug them into the PA, and it means that the class can hear them, but it means that they are challenged because they know that they're plugged in, but it also means that they're leading. So if my more able is playing the melody, for example, they're leading the other students that are playing that melody. If I've got another student that's maybe putting some vamping in on the chords, they are leading the rest of the students that have got those chords. So they are lead performers, but they are still part of that ensemble, but they're taking that more sort of accountability and that more responsibility within your ensemble. And as I say, they become that role model, they become that guide for the students too. And number 10, praise, praise, praise. This is massive and so important. You need to empower your students, make them feel like they were successful, even if they were playing one note. They need to feel that they were successful. They may forget what you teach them. They may forget, the following week what they did in the last lesson, but they'll never ever forget how you made them feel or how they felt in your classroom. So give them the confidence to come back next week and try again. And ways that you can praise them is comments publicly in class or comments privately, depending on the students, postcards home, phone calls home to parents, find them in another lesson, go and tell them again how great they were, tell your SLT so SLT can pick them up, go to the tutor rooms and tell the tutors, email the tutors so they can announce it too. Maybe you put a sticker in the planner, maybe you have social media, which you can send out like a shout out on there. The idea is make that fuss, make them feel like they are special, like what they did was great, so that they have that confidence, because if they feel empowered and they feel confident, they will feel like they want to do more, and when they do more, they will just develop that skill. I hope that all those tips are helpful. I hope you get a chance to try some of them out. Please let me know if you did. I'm more than happy to answer any more questions, and good luck trying. Thank you.